One of the hardest missiles, if not the hardest missile for Gaijin to balance, is the Soviet R-27ER. This is a semi-active radar homing missile with an incredible top speed, good range, and the access to an IOG guidance, meaning that it can go off of the latest radar lock or track that your radar has had. And it also lets you regain target acquisition if you lose the radar lock. Why this missile is incredibly hard to balance is quite simple. Being a semi-active radar homing missile, it needs a continuous or at least has to have a radar lock for the majority of its in-flight time. Something like active radar homing, like the American AIM-120 and the Russian R-77, they do not need to maintain radar lock at all times. They are fire and forget. The R-27ER is actually capable of performing with some of these early Fox 3s. The Soviets used the R-27 for a very long time. They used it over the R-77 for quite a bit of time until, it came to the point where the AIM-120 was just so advanced that they needed to get into the active radar homing race. But on top of all of that, another thing to note for especially for Gaijin is planes that carry the R-27ER either are incredibly under-tiered or over-tiered. Planes like the MiG-29 that only get access to two of them are sitting at the same BR with things like the American FA-18C Early, which gets access to six of the AIM-9Ps, which have the IOG similar to what the R-27ER has. Things like the Su-27, in my opinion, are still slightly under-tiered, at least in terms of the actual Su-27 in the normal tech tree, because it has access to a lot of R-27ER 6 in total. I think it should go up by zero point 0.3. But the missile itself can either make a plane sit at a very high BR or a very, very low BR. And really, it can kind of just make or break an entire plane. And because it's able to compete with those early Fox 3s, those very early active radar homing missiles, Gaijin is okay letting planes compete with the more advanced active radar homing missiles, which the R-27ER cannot do. So it really just kind of depends on the aircraft and I guess how Gaijin is feeling when they actually want to BR it or place its battle rating. Because the ER is a missile that is very good, but it just cannot fully compete with long-range AIM-120s. It is a missile that can stay, competitive with the earlier active radar homing missiles, but you're going to always be at a disadvantage using the ER because you have to maintain radar lock. You can't go defensive like things like the F-16C and F-15C can because they have, active radar homing missiles, meaning the missile will take over on its own guidance, which makes it to where, Russian players in the Su-27 and in the MiG-29, they need to make sure that they're constantly guiding in their R-27ER, or at least guiding it for a majority of its flight. If a player goes straight and stays straight for a long period of time, the missile can actually hit without radar lock. I've done it multiple times. I've done it in this clip here. It just kind of depends.